Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's SEJ webinar. I'm Heather Campbell. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at Search Engine Journal. I'm excited that you've chosen to spend your time here with us. We are talking about local GEO and AI search. And this team that we've brought you here with today is going to give you a 90-day roadmap to make every location AI ready. I am here with Anna Martinez, the Chief Technology Officer at Uberall, and Andrew Yan, CEO and co-founder of AthenaHQ. How are you both doing today? Welcome to your first SEJ webinar.
It's great to be here.
Perfect. All right. So for our attendees out there, use the chat. Let us know where you're coming in from. I am based out of West Virginia here in the US. Anna, Andrew, what about you? Where are you both based out of?
I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Nice.
We're in San Francisco, in the middle of all the AI.
Nice. A little warmer than where I am, but we'll take it today. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it over to this team. So if you need closed captioning, it's the little CC in the top right of your screen. We do have a couple polls for you today, so looking for some engagement. We're going to do a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions for this team relevant to the topic we're talking about, leave them in the Q&A tab. If you see a question that you like, give it a little thumbs up. That little upvote tells us it's something that you want to ask or that's important to you, and we'll do our best to get them answered at the end. We do have a breakout room. So with us, we have Luma. She is the technical product manager. She's going to be showing you around the platform and answering any questions. So at the end of the presentation, you can choose your path where you want to go. Before you leave today's call, we're going to do a short survey like we always do. It just lets us know how today's event went and gives you an opportunity to let us know what topics you want to hear from us in the future. We've got, like I said, some polls. There's some emojis at the bottom. This is an awesome team. So I'm going to turn it over to them and everything that they're going to go through today. I'll be back at the Q&A. Team, it's all yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. And hi, everybody. It's great to be here. And yeah, we want to start with a poll just to break the ice. So I think Heather is going to put it now, but it's like, which best describes your company? Are you a multi-location brand, a franchise, a marketing agency, technology channel partner, consultant, or other? Let us know. Let us know where you're coming from. What's your company?
And that poll should pop up for everybody. Sorry, I didn't mean to turn my camera on, but that poll should pop up for everybody. So just give that a click. And so, Anna, I think we've got about 44% of the people are marketing agencies. We've got 25% who are multi-location brands, which is exactly what you all are here to talk about today. We get 7% consultants, 14% others, so interested who those might be, and about 5% franchise brands. So you've got mostly marketing agencies and multi-location brands.
All right, perfect. So hopefully you find that you're in the right place today. So let's start talking about GEO. And before that, I just want to ask you this question. It's like, anyone remembers Blockbuster, right? And I can't see you, but hopefully many of you are raising your hands. And if you remember, it was a 9,000 store empire, right? And they pretty much were gone in 5 years. And not because only there was a digital transformation going, because there was, right? It's like streaming technology was coming up, but for sure it wasn't because people stopped watching movies, right? Because we're still watching a lot of movies. But the real change that happened back then was a behavior change. People started behaving different in terms of how they were approaching watching movies. And Blockbuster didn't adapt fast enough to that change. So another behavior change is really happening today, right? I think we can't deny it. And it's projected that 750 billion in consumer spend will be flowing from traditional search to AI in the next 2 years, or actually less now since we got this stat. And if you think about it, many of the questions that we ask AI are local in nature, right? Think about how you are using AI, right? And who here in the last month asked ChatGPT or Gemini to help them plan their vacation, right? It's like they help me plan my summer vacation with my kids. So really what's happening is our favorite AI is doing the work that we used to do. It's searching, it's comparing, it's evaluating, and it's deciding, right? And that's the most important part, it is deciding. By the time the user sees anything, the machine has already chosen what it believes to be best. So this means that the battle for customers now happens before the customer is involved. So if you are not visible to AI, you already lost, right? Without even knowing that there was a decision that you had to influence. So really, whether we like it or not, AI is the new front door of local commerce, right? And we put some stats here, but beyond the stats, I want to tell you actually a true story. This past weekend, it was a long weekend here in the US, and my husband and I decided we would go skiing with the kids. So I was packing, and I was packing and noticed that my daughter's ski pants were ripped, and we were leaving literally that afternoon. So I didn't think twice. I just grabbed my phone and I asked ChatGPT, I'm looking for ski pants for a 9-year-old girl that are available in a light color because that's the only thing she likes, and that it needs to be close to my house. And within seconds, right, it pointed me to a Big Five. And for those who don't know, Big Five is a big sporting goods chain. But it pointed me to a Big Five that I rarely go to. One is like not really on my way to anything. But they had the pants in the colors that I wanted, in the size that I wanted. So I didn't look for anything else, right? I just click on the link, I bought them online and picked them up in store. The next morning, she was hitting the slope with her new pants, right? So these experiences, right? And literally this happened this weekend, right? And think about how many of this happen on a daily basis for everybody. These experiences are getting more and more common, right? So the first thing business need to understand is, am I showing up in these daily experiences? Is your business showing up in these moments, right? And here you have a picture of my daughter with her new ski pants. It's actually a real true story. But you might think that it's impossible to know, right? You might think it's like, okay, how do I know if I'm showing up or not showing up? Is it just luck? Well, no, right? I don't think it's all doomsday. There's definitely an approach that you can have, but it does demand a clear, structured approach to really regain that control of your brand's digital presence. Okay, so that's what we've been working at Uberall, right? At Uberall, we have developed this framework to address this challenge, and we really we're dividing this strategy in what we call 3 pillars: source of truth, context engineering, and orchestration. And if you don't know Uberall has been in the local SEO space for over 10 years now, and we've been helping location-based businesses of all sizes and globally to really scale the local SEO strategies. And as we've seen the market evolve, we're also working really hard in understanding how all the things are shaping up, right? So we developed this framework, and we applied actually this framework to ourselves at Uberall, and we have seen amazing results in just a few weeks, right? In terms of how we are getting discovered through AI search. Now, let's go one by one of what these pillars really mean. So the first one is what we call source of truth. And this is probably more of like the boring stuff, but it's really, I think, incredibly powerful. And this is your data, because right, and that's what you can control the most, right? You absolutely have to start here. I think is rule number 1. And what I'm talking about is, what are your store hours, your product feeds, your brand promise, your pricing, your inventory levels, right? Think of AI like the world's most demanding, obsessive, compulsive inventory manager, right? It cross-references everything, and it amplifies the good and the bad. So if your price on Google Shopping is a penny different from your website, it will notice. If your store hours are wrong in Apple Maps, it will notice. And what it's worse, it will make the wrong conclusions. So your first most critical job is to get your data house in perfect order, okay? And it can be challenges for a lot of organizations, but definitely rule number one, keep that in mind, your data and how you control it. Now, the second pillar is what we call context engineering. And I think here is where I think you can differentiate yourself the most, because it's really where the magic can happen, right? It's all about dynamic content and having a dynamic content strategy. Because if you think about it, LLMs, they blend between 10 to 16 sources before answering a question, right? And they're triangulating, they're comparing, they're validating. So the AI mentions and citations, are all about credibility across these sources, right? And it can feel overwhelming, right? Because there's more platforms, there's more content, there's more signals, but it's not about just producing content without thinking about it. You can have a strategy behind it. And that strategy is what we call context engineering. And what we really mean with that is you have to think about your on-page signals and your off-page signals, right? When we talk about on-page, what we're talking about is your local pages, your FAQs, your store locator content, right? Not just generic brand messaging, which I think is important, but also structure, location-specific answers to real prompts, right? So think about it. If you are a pharmacy that is open late in Bishop, then put that in your FAQs, right? If you're a hotel near Mamos Lakes, so we went skiing last weekend, but if you're a hotel near Mamos Lakes with early check-in, have that as well somewhere, right? If you're the best brunch in Lone Pine with vegan options, make sure to write that, right? So your on-page content, it needs to map to likely prompts, right? So that way you can get selected when people are asking, or you can be mentioned when people are asking those questions, right? So think about what are the likely prompts that people will ask about things related to my business, right? And make sure that you have the content if you're obviously offering that. So that's the on-page signals that you can create. And then there is the off-page, right? And there, I think you have to think about what are your reviews, right? Are they good? Are they bad? How are people talking about you? How are you showing up in listings, right? Is your data consistent across listings in different places, in Google and Apple and Bing and Yelp, whatever it is? How are you showing up in social sites, right? Think about that LLMs, they cross-check external sources, right? So if the off-page signals, they contradict your site, then credibility drops, right? Reviews in particular, I think, are very powerful, and third-party relevant content that cites your business is also powerful. So, okay, so think about on-page signals, off-page signals, how those are consistent, and that's the third piece of this, the consistency, right? It can't just be done sporadically. For years, I think in marketing, we thought about the right message to the right person at the right time. Now it's a little bit different. It's the right signals, structured clearly, repeated consistently, and aligned to real intent. Because I think the key thing to remember is that in an AI world, you're not competing for attention that much. You're competing for inclusion. And inclusion is earned through context. So you are empowered to create that context, so then you get included. Okay? Hope that makes sense. And last but not least, the third pillar is what we call orchestration. And just to have fun and kind of remember it, we call it the TT strategy. And what we mean with TT is team and tech. And team, I mean, we already have them, right? The marketing teams that we have, but more than a change in team is a change in mindset. Right? It's a mindset shift that needs to happen. And that can be very challenging for a lot of companies because many marketing departments, they have an organizational structure where maybe they're working in silos, right? Because you might have a content team, you might have a brand team, you might have an acquisition team, a web team, an SEO team, but they might not all be working in concert, right? As a symphony. And they need you. They need you for GEO. Literally, we were talking with a client a few weeks ago. Now they really understand how their AI search visibility is, and they understand the content that they have to create, but they need to work with a different team, right? With the content team in order to do that. And that's not always, sometimes those teams are not always aligned, but they don't have all the right priorities. So you need to think about that. You need to think about how you get all those teams working in concert. And the second part of that TT strategy is the tech, right? You absolutely need to review your tech stack and make sure that you have a tech that can enable that context engineering and dynamic workflow orchestration, right? You want software that helps you understand what are the right tasks and the right things that you have to do. And what is fantastic is now you can also use AI, right, to help you with this, right, and to help you scale this in a way that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, and that you're focusing on the outcomes, right? You're focusing on the impact. I think what we are seeing in SaaS is like software as a service is really transforming into what we call RAS, results as a service. So you want tech, you want applications and software that helps you reach those goals, reach the goals that you have, right, and reach your outcomes. So that's kind of the framework to start, right? And then if you have those pillars in mind, now what I would ask myself is, do you know what stories AI is saying about your brand, right? Do you know how AI is talking about you, and in what stories you show up, and in what stories do you want to show up, right? Are you feeding AI with the right context to show up in those stories, right? And do you have the right organization structure and the right tech to really scale, right? To really show you the money kind of thing. So if you don't know where to start, right? I mean, I don't know all of you where in the journey you are on GEO, but if you don't know where to start, the other thing that we've done is put together a playbook, put together a 90-day playbook. So you have a clear, systematic way of approaching this. So now I'd like to introduce Andrew, CEO of AthenaHQ, and he will walk us through that playbook. Andrew, it's all yours.
Hey everyone, Andrew here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Athena. In a past life, I used to be a product manager working on Google search, so on the other side of the table. So really happy to be here today. We have partnered with Uberall to bring to market the #1 multi-location AI search platform, and this is our local GEO playbook. So a lot of words here. Don't worry, we'll get through this together. You can think about AI search and optimizing for AI search into 4 buckets. First is figuring out where you are today and where you aren't showing up today. This is mapping your AI search presence to specific models, specific prompts, specific personas, locations, and being able to identify where the gaps are. Once we have the gaps and we know where the gaps are, then there's the opportunity to actually produce content to address these gaps or optimize existing content to better target these prompt gaps that we're seeing. After that, that's the on-page side. After that, we can focus on the off-page side, which is on the third-party citations, whether it could be publications, it could be third-party websites, it could be partner websites, and making sure that we're able to get your brand mentioned in the best way that you want your brand mentioned on the right websites on the internet. The mental model to think about it this way is, if your buyers, consumers are going to AI to make their buying decisions, like the ski pants story for Anna, and the AI is going to the entire internet, then it's really important that you figure out which parts of the internet are most influential for your buyers, right? For the prompts that they're searching for on AI. And once you know those, we can reverse engineer these most cited sites and actually target the highest ROI sites where maybe it's not the Forbes, Wall Street Journals of the world. Maybe it's, skipantgirl.com, or these very long tail websites which otherwise you wouldn't have paid attention to before, but are having a large influence on AI search. The last part is to be very aware that this is not a one and done thing. It's actually an iterative process, and being able to measure the impact of the actions you took, track how citations are trending through time, and ultimately take these learnings and improve it for the next cycle. So here's some results we've seen. We've seen 2x citations, doubling citations across LLMs in 2 months, 3x to 9x higher conversions, and higher intent traffic as a result. Generally speaking, what we hear from our customers is that visitors from AI models tend to have higher conversion rates, lower bounce rates, and also tend to be higher intent in general. By the time they're reaching your website from an AI model, they've already done a whole buying process beforehand. Cool. So getting to phase one, figure out where you stand. So first off, this is a really key step. A lot of brands miss this and they go straight into taking the action. And the end result of that is that, unfortunately, some folks end up doing a shotgun approach, which is not the right approach for AI search. So it starts off with mapping where you are today, specifically which prompts you're on, where the blind spots are, and also being able to, in the case of multi-location, weigh for your stores that have the highest impact on revenue or the highest strategic impact, for example, flagship stores. And being able to prioritize these higher value stores can help you be a little bit more targeted instead of shotgunning across all the stores across the US or around the world. Maybe weighing the more important stores a little bit more compared to the average store. So that's the week one goal, is to establish a baseline and be able to discover these gaps. After that, we can move on to phase two, which is addressing the content gaps. As Anna mentioned, there is cross-team collaboration here. Sometimes this might live on the website team, or sometimes on the content team, or on the e-commerce team, where we're producing assets that are specifically targeting the gaps that we've discovered. From there is tracking the performance of these actions we've taken, being able to monitor on a content piece by content piece level, a very granular level, the impact and influence they're having on AI search. And then from there, actually taking these initial experiments and actually scaling that up across multiple product lines, multiple SKUs, and making sure that when AI is answering questions about prompts your consumers are searching for, is your website's authority and not your competitor's website. And phase three, on the surgical placement side, really the key here is the surgical part, right? It's not about spamming your brand 1,000 times on Reddit and wherever you can find it. It's really about making sure you know where AI is pulling from. Sometimes AI is pulling from Reddit. Sometimes AI is pulling from YouTube, or it's pulling from, SkioPants.com. And it's really important that we're very surgical about reverse engineering where the citations are having the highest influence. One phenomenon we are seeing here at Athena is that there's a long tail website renaissance where, if you remember back in the early internet days, there's a whole long tail websites that were all influencing, in the top 3 search results of Google. And then there's a period in the 2010s when that started to consolidate. And with this new technology of AI search, we're actually seeing the decompression of the internet in many ways, where humans most of the time can only see the top 3, can only read through the top 3, and then they get fatigued. And I believe it's 50 or 60% of searches end up on the first result in traditional 10 blue links version of Google. In the AI search version of Google or ChatGPT or Gemini, we see that AI can pull from 20, 30, 40 different websites. And because of that, there's this long tail of websites that have been overlooked in the past, that competitors are not looking at, that are the opportunity to actually win on these high ROI, low competition placements. Next slide. Yep. And after that, it's about how do we compound this into a repeatable motion. So it's not just a one-off experiment, but it's actually a whole team movement that's here to stay. What we're hearing from our customers is that they're not treating AI search as the one-off, 2-month, 3-month sprint, but actually something that has to be continuously iterated on. And it is a continuous competitive landscape where if you're able to iterate faster than your competitors with the right tooling, then you're able to win over and over and over again across a wider and wider set of prompts and questions that consumers are asking. Starts off with measuring impact, tracking how citation rates, mention rates, share of voice, these metrics are trending through time. And then the aim to look at your share of voice and seeing where you're gaining ground against competitors and where you're seeing competitors making moves that you can then counteract. So the key part here is that AI visibly is not a static game, right? It's a constantly evolving game. It evolves at the pace of AI, but with the right tool, you're able to evolve with the pace that AI is moving. Great. So overall, to summarize this 4-step process, it's really about making sure that you get cited, your content, your websites get trusted by the AI models, and not just ChatGPT, right? Also Google's Gemini model, Google's AI overviews, AI mode from Google, Perplexity, Claude, a whole long tail of AI models, and then get ahead of your competitors. And these are some of the metrics we've seen as rewards for implementing and orchestrating this AI search initiatives.
That's great. Thank you, Andrew. And then what we see also, right, is like a lot of the results, they can happen really quickly, right? I think a lot quicker than in traditional SEO. And you should expect it if you want to put some goals. I mean, we put here some tentative goals. Obviously, they depend a little bit on the industry, also depend about your competitors, how much are they doing, right? But you should try to increase your share of voice by at least 10%, right? You should try to make sure you increase those citations, at least double them. And then we at Uberall, as I said before, we've been drinking kind of our own champagne, how our marketing, our CMO likes to say it. And we've been using these tools, and we've seen in 3 months or less actually higher conversion rates, right? We expect, again, depending on the industry, 3 to 9 times the conversion rate. So this stuff works, right? But you, as Andrew and I were saying, you need to have a very structured approach and discipline to it. So we hope that you find some of this framework, right, and Playbook useful. I usually, especially when I start something new, I like to have frameworks like this mainly to use them as mental models, right, to know where to begin, right? At Uberall, we've been working really hard in the past year and a half to make sure that our tech is the right tech for this new world that we're living, right? So there are 3 main key developments that we've done that supports this, right? So the first one is we launched the location performance optimization practice, which is a practice that blends SEO with GEO, so traditional SEO with the new GEO practices to really win in this new reality. And we introduced our proprietary location performance score. So it's really easy to track, okay, how am I doing, right? What are the achievements and what are the different tasks and things that I have to do? And a lot of that is included in these playbooks that we're talking about. And in collaboration with AthenaHQ, we've launched GEO Studio earlier this month, and it's the first ever, I think, GEO solution for location-based businesses, right? So everything that Andrew mentioned, and I think there were some questions in the chat about this, everything that Andrew mentioned in the playbook, it can be created, published, and monitored through GEO Studio at scale for both your brand and your locations, right? And as I said, I think it's important to think about both. especially when you're thinking about your content strategy. And all that can be done through GEO Studio at scale. And last but not least, we also launched a year ago already, Ubi, which is our agentic experience. Because as I said, I mean, the thing with AI is kind of like changing everything at the same time, right? It's changing our industry, but we can also use AI to be ahead of that change, right? And that's what agents can do for us, and that's where Ubi comes into place. So we really see it as an orchestrator that can help you scale your location marketing. So with that, I think we want to do one more poll on, we want to understand how much of this is a priority for you. Is it a top strategic priority? Are you looking and evaluating solutions actively? Is this all new for you, exploring it? We'd love to know where in the journey you are. So Heather, I think you pushed the poll already?
I did. I just pushed that live. Results are just starting to come in so far. 51% are saying that it's their top strategic priority. Not surprised there. We ran a similar survey of our readers recently, and we're seeing upwards of 70%. So absolutely, as these shake out, I expect that to get a little higher. Well, perfect.
Fantastic.
We'll let everybody answer that, and how about we just roll on?
Yeah, okay. So as we said, if you're thinking about your tech and how your tech can help you scaling and applying these playbooks in a somewhat structured way, and if you're interested of trying GEO Studio, we added a QR code here. Just follow it, and we can absolutely give you a demo. You can try it, and hopefully you find it that it can help you in your GEO journey. So with that, I think we're wrapping up, and we're moving to a demo, right, of GEO Studio. And then, so whoever want to go there, I think we're creating a breaking room. And then for anybody who wants to stay in the Q&A, we'll also be answering questions.
Excellent. We're going to start that. So Catherine and Luma and Saya will all be over in the breakout room. We're going to hang out here and do Q&A, and we've got some really great questions. So I'm excited. I'm excited to start with these. So I'm going to max these up on the screen so Anna and Andrew, you both can see them. Kate and several others are asking, is there a way to, measure AI search visibility? Is there a way to measure zero clicks? How many times is content being shown? Any advice for everybody out there?
Yeah.
And you want to take that one? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yes, there is, and it actually involves some complex modeling, which we've done on a platform where you can see for any given piece of content, the influence over AI models as a percentage, how often it's being cited, what's the estimated impressions it's impacting on AI search. We can get really granular here, even in this zero-click world, right? Without having to have people click on it, we can estimate that impact that individual content pieces are having on AI and across specific models. So for example, we can see how is this piece of content impacting ChatGPT, for example. We can show you on a model by model basis, and also even on a persona by persona basis as well.
Perfect. Okay. Jeff asked if they will get the slides and recording after the call. So yes, Jeff and anyone else who is curious, we will send those right after the call. All right. So NS is asking, we have multiple locations. Today, I use Google Business Profile to spread information about my locations. But with ChatGPT, Perplexity, Bing, how do I ensure my data is spread across the new and different stakeholders?
Yeah, I think the key here is using the right tech, right? So being able to have tech that helps you have a source of truth of all your data, that then it can be published across all the different places that ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Bing are picking up, right? So, and that's that's the kind of the two-phase approach that you need to have. Is first control your data, know where you have it, and know that it's getting spread correctly. And then monitor that with a tool like GEO Studio, where you can see, okay, is the data getting picked? What is the data that is getting picked? How am I getting mentioned? And I think with that two-step approach, right, with technology, is how you can make this work at scale for multiple locations.
Chris asks, so Andrew, this is, towards the end of what you were talking about, is what are the tracking sources that you were referring to where they track their content across AI ranking?
Yeah, we can think about this in the traditional media sense of how is your owned performing on AI search versus earned media versus paid media. And this is within GEO Studio, it's powered by Athena's platform. We can actually break this down on a specific sub URL as well level, and get really granular on a page by page level to that level of detail of which piece of content are performing the best on AI search, which ones are not contributing as much, and probably can be refreshed.
Question from AR. Do prompts with near me, and there's been other questions around value here. So do prompts with near me hold more relevant in AI searches, FAQs, listicles? What else can one do for better on-page SEO experience as a local business?
So I think, as we were talking about, right, it's FAQs that are really, you kind of have to think what are the type of prompts that people will ask, right, or in what type of stories or type of scenarios will it make sense for your brand to show up, right? So and make sure that you have that either in FAQs or also in local pages, right? That you can have different local pages with different content for your locations. But I also think you can have a sort of also two-phase approach in content. It's not that you need to repeat the same content for every location, right? You can have content at the brand level that is that applies to all your locations, right? And then have more targeted content for maybe the different locations that you have, especially if they are if they're different, right, in certain ways. So that's how I would think about how you structure your content strategy, right? It's like you don't have to push everything to FAQs, right? You can cover a lot of things with the content you have in your brand pages, but then go more specific with the local content in either local pages or locator pages and FAQ pages associated to those local businesses, if that makes sense.
I think it does. And so just to kind of build on that a little bit, Matt's asking, how do you identify the key prompts and how your keyword topic strategies should evolve for your products or services for AI searches? So any recommendations here?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a question we get a lot as well, is where do your prompts come from? And it's actually, we take multiple inputs and train the whole entire model to suggest prompts that are relevant and targeted for a specific company. These prompts come from Google Search Console, Google Analytics, your ads account, your own website that we're analyzing. We have AI agents that are actually analyzing your website. Comes from Athena's proprietary data models and the scaffolding we built on top of that. In terms of keyword topics and strategies evolving, really it depends on how fast your products and services are evolving. And also, for some verticals, they're very trend based, and those would evolve faster than maybe more static verticals. So that's very much dependent on the vertical that you're in.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. So question from Rhiannon. Have you noticed a difference in performance between AI generated and human written content in citations?
Yeah, it's a great question. We found that purely AI generated content is actually not the best way to go, because one, you're risking getting penalized for having AI slop on your website. On the other hand, we're actually seeing the line being blurred between the two, where most of the brands we're seeing are actually using AI drafted, human reviewed content. So it's not a black and white binary. It's an AI only or it's a human only, but it's shades of gray. And that's the recommended approach is making sure that the quality and the final review is ultimately dependent on the human. And then in terms of citation rates, we're seeing that overly engineered purely AI generated content is very risky from a brand perspective if you don't have the human. Because let's say you had that, right, and it was cited, and one of your potential customers clicked on a link from ChatGPT, and they get taken to this entirely AI created page that's actually not as beneficial as having a human to review it beforehand. And that's the most optimal blend of both worlds.
That's great advice. All right. Another question from Chris. SEO historically has taken time to build, but also ranking tends to stay there for a while. Are GEO results faster in ranking rise and fall? And there were a couple other questions around this one.
Yeah, I can take this one. What we're seeing across the AI labs and indexing speeds for these AI models is that it's operating at a completely different pace than the old search world. In terms of the rising and fall, you can think about it as one of the biggest changes to AI search compared to traditional search is that AI search is probabilistic, right? And you search the same thing in ChatGPT or Gemini 10 times, you're going to get 10 different answers. And because of that wasn't the case with the volatility wasn't the case with traditional Google search. So we do see this sort of stock market squiggly line, but that's not cause for concern. The right way to look at GEO performance is looking at the overall trend over a weeks or months long duration.
All right. C. Embleton asks, as AI-driven search alters discovery and decision-making patterns, what frameworks or metrics should we use to track consumer intent accurately? And how should we rethink the way that we map and measure customer intent journey? This is a very loaded question. There's a lot of things going on here, but it's where we are right now. So any advice on what should they be tracking right now?
Anna, you want to take this one?
Sure. So, I mean, it's part of what we mentioned already, right, with the frameworks and playbook that we talked about. But you want to try to track what are the answers, right, that the different AI engines are providing for the different type of prompts, right? And in a way, you also want to think about, okay, where do you want to show up, right? And what is the consumer intent that or consumer behavior that you want to drive, right? For sure, it's not linear anymore, right? And it's not all traffic that you want to take into your page, right? The way or the mental model that I like to have is if AI is the new storefront, the website is kind of like the factory behind it, right? Or is infrastructure behind it that is providing or is feeding the content to that storefront. So in terms of what are the metrics that you want to track, well, at the end, it's what are your outcomes, right? Is what is your end outcome as a business, and start from there and work backwards into what is the consumer intent that it makes sense, right? And what are as we say, in the type of prompts, right, and the type of stories that you want to show up. Measure how you're showing up in those stories, and then create a content strategy that helps you influence that if it's not where you want it to be right now. That makes sense?
I can add on to this as well.
Sure.
As Anna mentioned, this is very business specific and dependent on the business case. I can give you an example. Depending on the business, you may have challenges either with top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and some businesses might struggle with top of funnel, in which case you can prioritize prompts for top of funnel, right? Versus if you're struggling, your business struggling with bottom of funnel and middle of funnel, that's where you're seeing conversions drop off, then you can actually prioritize those prompts specifically. So there's this ability to target to which parts of the funnel are feeling the most pain for you as a business. And that's one way how AI search can help shape the consumer intent, where consumers aren't just using ChatGPT for top of funnel, they're using it for middle, bottom, and even post-purchase. Even after they bought, they are starting to use it for help. I find myself using ChatGPT sometimes for support and reading the help docs and all of that. So really interesting space that pervades many parts of the buying journey.
All right, so back to how much human editing should we do? A new question just came in from Megan. She asks, how much editing should a person do? Are we talking light editing or more like 40 to 50% to be safe? And I don't know that there's a number, but there is some strategy here. So what would you share?
Yeah, I can take this one. So there's no set threshold of like, hey, you should edit 30% of this piece of content. The biggest thing is about how tight are your brand guidelines, how strict is your industry. I can give you examples, right? If you're in healthcare or financial services, heavily regulated industries, that would definitely require heavier editing, just simply by the regulatory nature of those industries. And of course, we can upload your brand profile, your regulatory practices, and have that automatically being surfaced. But there is this last part, which is depending on your industry, on which ones, if you're in a more heavily regulated industry, that might look more like 40 to 50%, versus if it's not as regulated, it might not be as stringent.
There's a lot of great questions here. I'm trying to make sure that I'm grabbing ones that... So Andrew, this goes back to something you were talking about. Target sites ranking 20 to 40. Does this mean that we should look for smaller, more credible sources that we can reference and link in our blogs and other content?
Yeah, it's a good question. So to reframe how to think about this long tail renaissance, right, is about mentions, similar to the idea of backlinks, if you're familiar with traditional SEO. But it's not about getting your link in there. It's about getting your name and your brand messaging on these 20 to 40, this range of sites. So it's not about linking to your own. Yes, that's a nice to have, of course, and will always help. But the biggest thing is making sure that those websites 20 to 40 that are being pulled from AI search, right, those are the ones that are having the most positive references to your brand, or position your brand in the right way that you want it to be positioned.
And if I will add something, to me, it's also kind of like a reverse engineering that you want to do, right? You first want to try to understand what are those websites, right, that AI search is picking from, right? And then make sure that in those places you're getting mentioned, right? And in a positive light.
All right, Chris asks, I'm sorry, the mailman's here in case you might hear my dog in the background. We noticed aggregators are getting listed as directories as well. Do you see this as an anomaly or not? And how to deal with if you're incorrectly referenced by AI?
Yeah, this one's a hard one to take without understanding what industry. We're seeing a lot of industries, and maybe this could be better taken offline about, for your particular industry, which aggregators are referencing.
Okay. We'll wait and see if Chris replies in the chat. If so, we can bounce back to it. Otherwise, we can do it offline. Let me get too. There were some good questions that were submitted before we hopped on the webinar. Give me just 1 second. I need to get these converted over to Q&A. That way, Anna, this one's for you. It's gone. There it goes. Sorry. Okay. We've been hearing for a while that AI might kill traditional search if people are moving to ChatGPT or Perplexity. I don't know why that's so hard for me to say today. I apologize. But does our old SEO work even matter anymore? Or do we have to start from scratch and be visible on these new platforms? I know I had a couple other questions around how do we get started? So yeah, what do you have to share here?
Yeah, I don't think SEO is going anywhere. If anything, bad SEO, right? It's like full of keywords and no content. That is the one that you probably. But I would argue they shouldn't have never done that to start with, right? So I think SEO is still very much at the core infrastructure piece of what these AI agents are picking up, right? I think it's what you just need to understand is like what is the new goal of SEO, if anything, right? It's creating the content authority, trustworthiness, right? It's creating content that is relevant and doing it in a way that is structured for machines to read, right? I think as the websites are not going away, but now the attention is getting split. It's not just humans that are going to these websites, right? It's AIs as well. So make it easy for AIs to really understand what you're about, understand what you're offering, understand why they should pick you, right? So no, I don't think it's going away. I think it's a matter of doing good SEO, and that is definitely a must, and will continue being.
I agree. What I love is so much of it is coming back to just plain old great marketing and foundations and branding. And so I love to see that coming back. Anna and Andrew, that's about a wrap. We've been through most of the questions, and anything that we didn't get to or Chris's question, we'll turn those over. And if you want to follow up afterwards. But before you leave, any last words or anything that you want to leave with our attendees today?
I mean, I would say that change is hard, right? And it's intimidating and it's overwhelming. But I do think that think about the TT strategy, right? With the right team and with the right tech, it can be conquered, right? So we're here to be your partners and help you through this journey, wherever you are in the journey. So reach out if you haven't already. And great to be here. I hope you found this useful.
I'll add as well, where hopefully it seems like everyone's as excited as Anna, Luma, and I are about this shift, because it truly is a generational shift. Kind of when we saw the shift from web to mobile in the early 2010s, we're in the shift from traditional search to AI search, and it can be really scary. It can be really exciting at the same time, but with the right partner for AI search, we'll get there. We'll get to where you need to be.
Absolutely. I love the confidence. Whereas Maria Gonzalez says in the chat that she hates AI overviews, but thank you all for the webinar. And so, I think we're all have a love-hate relationship. For Ya and Chris, where can you watch the recording? We will send the slides and the recording over in your email later today. It does take a little bit for them to buffer, but hang in there. We'll get that for you. Okay. One last question, Anna. Andrew, if you want to go first, tell the people where to find you.
Anna, go ahead.
Yeah, so you can use the QR code, and that will take you to a place where you can find us. You can, if you want to request a demo, or if you want to try GEO Studio. But yeah, Uberall.com as well. You can read all about us there, or just ask ChatGPT about us.
And for Athena, you go to AthenaHQ.ai if you want to learn more about methodologies and our technical innovations we made, and also learn more about our team. We have a really amazing team.
Excellent. I just dropped the link for those who were asking for the link for the demo. So I did drop that in the chat.
Perfect.
We'll make sure everything is in the post-webinar email. And with that, Anna and Andrew, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and insight with us. This was a great playbook for everybody. And Luna, thank you so much for the breakout and sharing that with the team. So with that, we're going to let everybody go, head back to their day. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. And we will see you on the next SEJ webinar. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.